Okay, what are you saying, people, and welcome back to your favorite YouTube channel. So today, guys, like always, another weekly analysis for you on the screen. Other pairs will be analyzing today, but make sure you stay to the end of the video because I will be breaking down each pair, what's happened this week and potentially what could be happening next week as well. So I do hope you enjoyed the video, but with all that said, let's get into it. Okay, so first up we got Euro USD. So as you can see, big move to the downside this week, which was expected coming into the week. We were looking for shorts. I did handle a few targets, but the main overall target we were looking for is a push back down to 1.12. Obviously, the events that are happening around the world right now did play a big part of this move to the downside, but from a technical standpoint, we were already favoring those shorts to the downside. Anyway, as you can see, we actually wicked low and actually formed some new lows there, but quite a strong rejection there Thursday coming into Friday, which could imply coming into next week we could see a little bit more upside for Euro USD, certainly if we can stay above this support here. But the market is still, pretty much bearish, so not going to be too optimistic on those longs and mainly focus on shorts. There's two areas where we'll be looking to short Euro USD next week. This supports and resistance, which we didn't get the break from, and obviously this prior swing high up there. The only way I'll look for longs for Euro USD is if we come back down into this 1.12 area, form another higher low, and then I'll possibly look for buys back up into that level, and then maybe that level as well, depending how I react with this 1.13 resistance. So there could be some longs, but I would only really look from here because the market is still bearish. And you can see the real momentum is definitely with the bears. So I'm not going to try and catch the reversal, yet. It could happen, but from a technical standpoint, it's much better to be focusing on the shorts right now than the longs. So if we get a move into this level and we start to show rejection, then I will look for longs. Other than that, I mainly focus on the sells from these two levels right back down to that support, potentially those lows as well, but we'll be focusing on 1.12 for this week. So mainly looking for shorts at these areas. We'll see how price reacts. Again, have to stay on our toes because anything can happen in the world right now, which could, break through levels, change price action, even change our bias. So I'm going to focus on 1.13 and 1.13800 for shorts. If we come back down to 1.12, we'll see what happens there. Potentially could see some longs back to the upside for next week. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to USD JPY. So this pair we're favoring some more downside this week, which we did see briefly, but for most of the week we can see we did have consolidation here for USD JPY. The market wasn't moving too freely until Thursday. Big move to the upside there, as you can see, again impacted by the events happening around the world. But we were looking for some shorts to start the week off. We did see the market try and sell off a couple of times, but eventually failed. We were looking for a push into this support, which we weren't too far away, to be honest. And then if we can break through that, we're looking for a push into that level. However, coming into next week, you can see we are starting to form some higher lows, and the market is still forming these higher highs and higher lows. If you look at the bigger structure on the 4H time frame, this here potentially another higher low for another swing to the upside. And also take into account what the market is doing on the higher time frames, the daily, the weekly, overall momentum is still bullish. So we could still see continuation to the upside this week for USD JPY. I'm looking at price potentially coming back to these highs here at 116,300. But we do have some resistance right now, which price is struggling to break through. So looking to see if you can get a brief move to the downside for USD JPY first, and then targets will be at 116,300 for next week, maybe even higher highs if we can take out that level. So we've got potentially a higher low forming here, so as long as we stay above this, looking for long. So if we see a move to the downside from this resistance here, which you can see, nice reaction there also as well. So we could see some shorts to start the week off, but as long as we stay above this level, looking for longs, and I'll also look for longs on this area here as well. So I'm mainly bullish on USD JPY, looking for longs to the upside, back to highs at 116,300. Not really interested in the shorts. It's that nice area where we could see some downside, but but looking at the structure, I still believe that the longs are the bigger move. So either one of these levels, we'll be focusing on longs. Again, if we do see some nice reaction there, maybe on the hourly, we'll get involved, or if we come back there, we'll look to get involved as well. But we do need to stay, at least above this level for those longs to still be valid for next week. So more upside for USD JPY, targets at 116,300, back to highs for next week. And now I'm going to move on to USD CAD. So USD CAD, we were coming into the market bullish for this one, looking for buys to the upside. The market was consolidating, still kind of is to be honest. The market was consolidating. We were expecting a move higher. We had targets at this resistance, which you can see the market wicked into, and we were looking for a push back into those highs, which as you can see did not get to in the market on Friday. Quite an aggressive bearish candle coming right back down. So coming into next week, I'm still just about bullish on USD CAD. I can still see this market pushing to the upside. However, if this was a bit of a false move with that wick and that aggressive bearish candle, I'll be looking for one thing to happen, and if that happens, then I'm looking for a push right back down into this wick area around 1.25. So still bullish. I'll show you in the 4H time frame the reason why. You can see the market is still putting these higher lows in the market and higher highs as well, which is why I'm still bullish on the market. We're still having that bullish structure. You can see that a little bit clearly with this trend line. The market's still obeying that bit of a wick to the downside here. That was a bit of a false break. Came back to retest it again, which is when we saw that momentum. And now we're coming back into that same area. So as long as we hold on to this and we don't break through, the market still can put a higher low in and still creep to the upside like so. So coming into the week, I will be looking for buys at this trend line, at this support area here, looking for push back into highs. However, if that bearish momentum maintains and we just go and break through, put a lower low, then I will be looking for that lower high or a retest of this structure to take that short, and targets will be down here at 1.25. So either which way, there's still a big move in the market for USD CAD. We see that all the time with markets which are ranging. Eventually when they break out, the longer they range, the bigger the range, normally the bigger the breakout. So we'll be looking for longs at this area. If we go and break through this area and the trend line, then I'll look to flip my bias, because at that point the structure is broken, and we will treat this as a bit of a false move up, grabbing liquidity, and then we'll be looking for shorts at 1.25. A nice break and retest on the trend line, all that support and resistance will be a great way to get in, and targets at 1.25. So currently still bullish if we can hold that area. If not, and the market breaks through, we'll flip my bias to bearish, and looking at our push into 1.25 for next week.
Sorry to interrupt the video, guys, but if you are enjoying the content and you find it useful, make sure you go hit the subscribe button down below, and also make sure you drop a like as well. It really does help the channel out. But anyway, back to the video.
Okay, so now I'm going to move on to Euro Pound. So Euro Pound this week, nice move to the upside, which we were expecting. Looking for longs, mainly since where we're trading on the higher time frames, especially the monthly. We're right back at a very, very key level of support. As you can see, big move to the upside from this area, another big move. So we're expecting to see some type of reaction to the upside from this level. Obviously we could break through, but as of right now, we're still trading on that level. So still looking for buys for Euro Pound for a big move to the upside. We do have a bit of a trend line here, which is our goal for Euro Pound for this move, to see if we can get back into this trend line there, connecting all those swing highs back up around 0.85 200, 0.85 300 is going to be our target for probably the next couple of weeks. Coming into next week, just looking for a push back into these highs. We could go further if Euro Pound starts to fly, of course, then our target will be the trend line, but for the week we'll be looking for a push into that resistance at 0.84 600. Now there is a resistance right now which I do have my eye on, which could actually send Euro Pound back down to the 0.83 area, which is this support here. As you can see, resistance did roll us over. We broke above, couldn't get that break and retest, came back and retested it and roll over again, and right now the market's still at that level. So I am having a bullish bias for euro pound, but I either need to see price break through this level or come back down, form another higher low, and then I'll look to get into some longs where I can get my stop loss to break even, maybe take some profit off the table before coming back into that resistance there. So I will be looking at this area here for euro pound again, around the 0.83500 mark. If we can see some downside into that level, that would be great. That way I can take some profit off the table, get my stop loss to break even before coming back into that daily level. Or if we get the break and retest, that would be great as well. That way we're actually above that level and targets back at the highs there for euro pound at that 0.84500 mark. So bullish on euro pound, looking for some downside first, just because of where we're trading right now, and then some upside, or if you do have the break and retest, still looking for some upside back into those levels next week for euro pound. Okay, so up next we've got Aussie dollar versus US dollar. So for this one, we did see some downside this week, which we were expecting. However, it was short-lived. As you can see, we tapped into 0.71, which was our first target, and the market had a very, very strong reaction from that level. We were looking for push into 0.7 as well, if we could break through 0.71, but we failed to do that. And I do believe coming into the next week, we'll probably see some more upside now for Aodu USD back up into this high up here at 0.73. So I'm looking for some more upside for AUD/USD. You can see on the 4H time frame, we still have this bullish structure. We've got that high, higher low, high, higher low, high, and potentially another higher low than 0.71. I'm looking for price to continue higher. So first, I want to see some downside first for AU, because we're right now coming back into this resistance area. So I do want to see AUD/USD fall over a little bit. I'm mainly looking at this area for some longs, which we found support in for that move up. So I will be looking for some longs around this area at 0.71800, probably on the hourly time frame, and then push back into 0.73 for next week. And then if we do reject this, we could actually probably see some sells coming in later on in the week, back to the downside, back in probably into that support, and maybe even back into 0.71, because even though we still do have bullish structure of the high, high, low, high, high, low, it still is very, very corrective, which does show weakness in the trend. So there could be some nice shorts up here to take this right back down into 0.71. Obviously, we'll see how price reacts with that area before jumping to any shorts. But firstly, coming into the week, looking for longs back into 0.73, then maybe shorts right back down into 0.71 if we get some good price action. Okay, so now we'll move on to NZD CAD. So for this pair, we had a bearish bias coming into the week. We had two areas of interest where we would look to get involved for those shorts. First area, which was this support term resistance, which as you can see, the market broke through quite easily. And then we had this second area here at 0.86300, which was actually quite a critical level of support, holding the market, moving sideways. And we're looking to see if that level can hold and provide us some downside, which as you can see it did. However, the market right now is stuck between this support and that resistance, and as of right now, a little bit more neutral in NZD CAD. But if we can break underneath this support, we'll be looking for some more downside for NZD CAD, because if you do zoom out and look at the structure of the market, we are still in this technical bearish trend with the lower lows and lower highs, as you can see. So potentially the market could be forming another lower high to roll over. So if we can break through this support here, definitely we'll be looking for some shorts. I do have a couple targets there on 4H, which I'll get into in a second. But if we don't and we remain above this, we could actually see another move back into that resistance and maybe some higher highs, because we do have this kind of minor bullish trend here, which could still continue if we form another higher low. So we'll look to see what the market does at that level. If I just refine it on the 4H time frame. So yeah, if we can break through, we'll look for some shorts, something like this on the retest, or a lower high that we can find somewhere. We'll be looking for a trade like this. Overall targets will be back at this support here, because this is where the real momentum came from. But also we'll be looking at this resistance here as well for targets. If not, and we see a lot of rejection, a lot of wicks, probably can get involved in the hourly time frame for some buys back up into that resistance, and if we can clear that, maybe even further as well. But we'll be looking for this opportunity next week. We'll stay on my toes. Things can change quite quickly, especially with the events happening around the world currently right now. So break through that, we'll be looking for some sells, hopefully on the break and retest, but we'll just be looking for a lower high formation to get involved. If not, we start to hold, we'll look for longs back into 0.86200 for next week. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at pound NZD. So as you can see for this pair, big move to the downside this week, which was expected. We were looking for the shorts on the weekly time frame. As you can see, we were still rejecting this major wick over here, still holding as resistance. Just make that thicker. You can see price was still rejecting as resistance, so we're looking for a move to the downside from that area, and targets were at this resistance here, which will be 10 support. As you can see, price is breaking through that. So pound NZD looking quite bearish right now. I'm still looking for a little bit more downside since we're actually breaking underneath this resistance, which would have been support. We're looking at a push down into this area because we did have this head and shoulder pattern over here, as you can see, with the left shoulder, the head, and the right shoulder, which price broke through and never came back to retest that neckline. So I do think we can see a bit more downside back into the 1.97 area, and then maybe from there we can see some upside back up into that resistance. So looking for a little bit more downside now for pound NZD. Well, as you can see, we're looking very bearish anyway, but as long as we stay below this level here, looking to see if we can catch that next lower high, and then targets back down at 1.97. If we just dump to the downside, because the market is looking quite bearish right now, there's a chance we could just open up bearish and just lead to the downside. Then from 1.97 we'll be looking for longs back up into that two pretty much on the dot level there on the daily time frame. So we'll be looking for the longs if we just dump to the downside, but first of all looking for the shorts. Hopefully we can pull back from the lower high, catch those shorts to the downside, and then look for the longs back up again. But if we don't, we'll be looking for the longs back up into that daily resistance. So expecting more upside, more downside, sorry, for pound NZD back into 1.997 for next week, and if we can hold that, we'll look for longs back up to 2 if we can hold that level for next week. Okay, so next up we got CAD JPY. So CAD JPY were bearish for this pair, looking for a push into the downside. I said we did have this key level of support here, which actually formed a double bottom here. As you can see, breaking through that resistance there is now actually holding as support. So I said if you can break through 90, I'm looking at for a push into 88, or underneath 88, more like 87, 800. But looking for a push back down into those lows. However, we did see some downside for CAD JPY. It was looking very bearish at one point on Thursday. However, we did pull all the way back up above 90 and closed bearish above that, and then the following day we did see some real bullish momentum come through on Friday. So the market overall is still holding this. The only way I would go back to bearish for CAD JPY is if we come back underneath this level, and then we'll look to see if the market can go and fill this range to the downside or around 200 pips. So we'll only look for those shorts in that case, but right now it does look like the market's going to break through, and we could be seeing the higher time frame, the weekly, the monthly momentum, which is bullish, as you can see on the weekly, still bullish to the upside, and the monthly as well, still bullish as well. We can see momentum from those high time frames coming back into the market, and we could be seeing another push to the upside. So looking for a push into this resistance at 92 for next week for CAD JPY, but again do need to stay above 90. So we'll be looking for that next high low to form, and then longs to the upside. So as long as we don't break back above 90, looking for longs at this area, back into 92, maybe even further, but just for next week we'll be looking for 92. You can see we're already breaking through structure here, looking quite bearish above here, so we'll wait for that retracement. Hopefully it will come Tuesday or Wednesday, and the rest of the week can be buying this one back up into 92. So looking to go long in CAD JPY for next week, do need to stay above 90, and targets at 92 for next week. And now we're going to focus our attention on pound USD. So pound USD, as you can see, a big move to the downside this week. Overall, we were consolidating for the past few days, and coming into the week, we were looking for sales at the top of that consolidation because we still had this major level of support now acting as resistance, a lot of wick rejections in this area. So I did say we're looking for those shorts to the downside back into the lows of the consolidation. But as you can see, we've actually broken out of that level and come right back into this support level here. So as you can see on the 4H time frame, the market is still just trading above this level. We did not get that retest on the breakout. As you can see, prices collapse the downside, so we could still see the market come back up to retest that consolidation before rolling back over. So we'll be looking for some shorts around this area if we can see that upside for pound USD. There might be some longs, however, from this support because we did have a very aggressive wick to the downside on the daily, as you can see there on 4H as well, holding that level. So we could still see some buys for pound USD. It doesn't look as good as some other pairs, but if we do get the price action on Monday and Tuesday that this level is holding, there could be some nice buys back up into that area. But if we don't and we break through this, then we'll be looking for pound USD to come back into this support down here at 1.32 if this level gives way. So if that level does break, I know we've had a wick there, so it does look like it's holding, but the market does go and fill the wick and break through the level, we'll be looking at shorts right back down into 1.32. Hopefully you can get a break and retest, but that is what I'll be looking. So mainly to see what happens at this level will decide the bias for the week for pound. If we're holding this, can look for buys back up, break through, look for sales back into 1.32. And if we can hold that consolidation area at resistance at 1.35, we'll look to short it back down into that same level at 1.33730. So pound USD, I think we can see some upside to start the week, and then probably from 1.35 will fall over, but if it doesn't hold, we'll look for shorts back down into 1.32. Okay, so now I'm going to take a look at pound CAD. So pound CAD, as you can see, big move to the downside this week. The market's looking very bearish after that momentum on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Coming into the week, I was actually bullish, looking for the market to move higher. We were breaking above this 1.73 resistance, so I was expecting the market to hold that, use that as support, and look to continue this bullish momentum here. However, as you can see, it was a false break, price closed firmly back below, and we did see that bearish momentum coming back in there. So I'm actually going to change my bias from bullish to bearish now for pound CAD. Certainly after that impulsive move there. Even looking at the weekly time frame, it looks like potentially we could be putting in another swing high after this high over there. As you can see, high, potentially another swing high for the market to roll over further to the downside. So looking at a lot more shorts now for pound CAD, targets here and this support here as well. Potentially that support, but I don't think we're going to hit that area in 1 week. So looking at 1.68500 at this support, and this support at 1.69750, which price is actually not too far away from. But all in all, looking for more downside for pound CAD. So after that impulsive move, we want to see some retracement. We well could just open up bearish and go and hit that early on Sunday evening or Monday morning. And then from this area could see some nice upside. So hopefully we can see that upside come through. Look for that next lower high. I'm mainly focused on this support here, term resistance at 1.71250, and then from there we'll be looking at some sells to the downside, anticipating the next swing high, and looking for push right back down to that same support, then into 1.68500. Or if we decide we just want to go break through that level as well, then I'll start using that as resistance and looking for the same thing to catch some shorts back down into 1.658, and then maybe potentially into 1.67 down here. But like I said, I'm not sure if we'll do that within 1 week. But as we know with the markets, always expect the unexpected. So looking for some more downside for pound CAD, bearish, not really interested in any buys. There might be some buys off this level, but for me it probably will just be retracement. So I'm mainly focused on the shorts to take that back down into 1.68500 the next week. Okay, so next up we've got pound JPY. So for this pair we were looking for the market to roll over. We were rejecting the resistance up here at 157,500, and I said we're looking for a key level to break and expecting the market to roll over back down to 153. So we had this support here at 155,500. We're looking for that to break for push down to 153. As you can see, we did break through, never came back for the retest. We saw a lot of bearish momentum, almost hit 153 before the market is pulling back up. So I'm still bearish in pound JPY, looking for the market to roll over to the downside. However, if we do see the market break back above 155,500, start to put those higher highs and higher lows in, we could see the market push back into 157,500, which is that resistance up there, which the market was failing to break through. So if we do manage to get above, because this is still potentially a higher low past that one, and we could still see the market push bullish and follow that higher time frame momentum. So getting above this, we'll potentially look for longs if the price action is looking good, back up into this resistance here firstly, which is around 157, 156,900 and 157,500. But if we don't, we'll be looking for that next level high. Hopefully we can get a nice break and retest on this level here and look for shorts right back down into 153, then potentially even further as well if you can break through that. So for pound JPY, we'll be focusing mainly on that resistance there at 155,500, which we're not too far away from. Hold it, essentially looking for shorts, breakthrough, going to be essentially looking for longs, back up into 157,500 if we get those longs, and shorts looking for push back into 153 for next week. Okay, so now we move on to gold. So as you see, gold, massive spike to the upside for this one on Thursday, again due to the events happening around the world, but we're still holding on to this resistance. The market is still looking quite bullish for gold across the multiple time frames, to be honest, but we are still holding this 1910 level up here. There is this level around 1950, 1960, which I'm also still looking at, which the market just about whipped past on Thursday, as you can see. So if we can climb back above 1910, our next stop will probably be to go and fill this wick here to the upside back into 1950, 1960. Maybe we might see some downside from then on, but the market is still quite bullish. Looking on the weekly perspective, still quite bullish as well. In momentum is still to the upside. So I think for gold, we could probably see a little bit of downside just to correct some of this bullish momentum here. I'm mainly looking at this resistance here at 1870, or potentially this level here as well. So looking for gold to see a little bit of downside before maybe we carry on that rally to the upside, putting in our next higher low after this one here, and then we could look at continuations back up to the 1950, 1960 area. So coming into the week, hoping for a little bit more downside, not really looking to trade the shorts, mainly focus on the longs for gold. Like I said, 1870 and 1850, we didn't really get that retest of 1870, so potentially could see the market come down into this area and look for some buys back up into 1910. Then if we can break through that, you can probably carry on the trade a lot longer back to those highs. But just gonna look for push into 1910 for the week. Either from 1870 or 1850, just depends which level holds. We'll look for push into 1910, and then if we can break through that, we'll look at 1950, 1960 up there. But for me, I'm still bullish on gold, looking for a little bit more retracement, and then some buys back up to 1910 for next week. And last but not least, we've got Bitcoin. So Bitcoin, as you can see this week, we did see some nice downside. We were looking for those shorts at the start of the week. Two targets we had, which was this support here at 39k and 36,500, which we hit quite quickly early in the week. I was looking for a bit more retracement to the upside first. However, we didn't really see that. The market was far too bearish to see that upside. So coming into next week, I'm still bearish on Bitcoin. However, because it does look like on the daily time frame we are holding this support here, hopefully we can see a bit more upside first for Bitcoin back into the area I was speaking about last week, which is this support, which we didn't come back for the retest around 42k, and we'll be looking for that next lower high around this area to short it right back down to the downside. Again, 36k will be the target. and then looking at 33,200, which is that prior swing low down there as well. So looking for shorts for Bitcoin. Back down to 32. Hopefully we can see a bit more upside. Price right now is actually trading in an area of resistance here, which is struggling to break through at 39k. So there potentially could be some shorts around this area. Personally, not really a fan of that price action. Pretty much is just consolidating, as you can see. So for me, I would stay away from that. Maybe if we could see some downside first, come back to retest it, and then roll over, there could be some nice shorts. So I will point out this level because this is where we could roll over, but hopefully we can see a push into around that 42k mark, look for that next lower swing high, and then get a really nice swing right back down to 33,200 for the next coming days for Bitcoin.
Okay guys, that is the end of the video. Hope you all enjoyed that and found that useful. Like always guys, any questions, agree, disagree, or didn't quite understand anything, leave a comment down below and I will get back to you. If you are enjoying the content, leave a like on the video. It does help the channel out. Subscribe and hit the bell as well so you don't miss out on any uploads on the future. But I hope you all have enjoyed the video and I'll catch you all next week.